Good afternoon and blessings out there. Happy Friday, everybody. Happy Friday. Listen, this your man, Rod Hickman, generational wealth builders, where poverty ends with us. Listen, super excited to be coming to you here on this wonderful Friday evening. Listen, it's hard to have a bad Friday. I don't care what nobody say. Whether it's a freaky Friday, Friday the 13th, it's still Friday. And I just hope you'll agree with me on this here. But the best Friday out there is Payday Friday. But anyway, so glad to be here today. Just came on today because I love sharing with you all real life scenarios, real life events. I love sharing that with you all because I want you all to understand that, what we do here um, is designed to make sure, um, we're giving you what we see, things that we see that are happening. And one of my big concerns, and one of the things that for a lot of us generational wealth builders, one of the big concerns out there for me, especially, is your retirement, right? And I know when you're in your 20s and early 30s, you're not really thinking about retirement. But as I get closer to 50, you start hitting them 40s and stuff like that, it starts becoming a lot more realistic that, hey, man, I'm getting older. I don't want to have to go once I retire. I'm not going to go and work for Walmart or Dollar Tree or none of those places, right? And so, we start getting a little bit more intentional about making sure that our retirement is in the right place. And so, as I'm in that area, I'm in that vein. While again, life insurance is one of our main products, again, I personally am focused on retirement. And I like to make sure that our clients have that security in their retirement because, again, once you retire, you should be able to enjoy your life. I just believe that. And so, with that being said, I share with you situations that happen. I'll never share who it happens with, but I'll just share with you the situation. So, with that being said, I have a client that I'm working with, and they're of retirement age, and we sat down and we looked at their retirement, and they had actually retired, and so we started looking at what kind of funding they were receiving right now. And again, as we start looking at that, we noticed that they had an annuity, but that annuity was not paying them out. Matter of fact, they invested the annuity with a substantial amount of money. And the annuity was like, well, hey, you can't touch it until such and such time. And I was like, oh wow. Well, what are you supposed to do in the meantime? And the client was kind of like, I don't know. I was like, well, listen, we have some options, and I showed them our options with one of our providers, and they were like, oh my goodness, that's amazing, like good God Almighty, what the world, right? And so either way, long story short, when he saw our product, he was like, that's what I want because that makes sure that I get money within the next year, and I'll get income for the rest of my life. So we're going to talk about a few things here. What I really want to empower you to do is be able to know the questions to ask about your 401k, your 403b, your 457, to ensure that it's on track to do what you want it to do, right? So that's what we're talking about today. And it's really only three questions that you have to ask. And so as I talk about this individual, it was so funny because when we talked about these questions, um, this individual was then able to go and sit down across from the person and see how they were being very deceptive. And when we spoke, the individual was quite clear on the fact that I could see that they were lying. And I wanted to tell them stop lying because they couldn't answer very simple questions. And that's what we're going to talk about here on today. We're going to talk about three questions to ask about your retirement just to make sure that everything is going to be all right. So that's what we're going to talk about a little bit here today. And so here, as always, for those of you that are here, if you have questions or anything that you want to ask, please feel free to put it in the chat. I'll be more than happy to answer the question as best as I can. Again, as always, like, share with somebody about what it is that we're doing. So here's the first question. How much money do I need when I retire? How much money do you actually need when you retire? So this is the first question that you as that client need to know. You need to know how much money you need when you retire. And so if you don't know this, what's going to happen is you're going to be in a place where the money that you're putting in, you'll never know when you've hit the actual number that you're supposed to hit. And so this is one of the things that we share with our clients. We share with our clients about how to know your numbers. And it's very, very easy to know your numbers. It's very easy. And if you've been around and watched a few of my videos, then you already know. So let me share my screen. And here you can see how much money do you need when you retire. So there are a couple of key factors that we want to take into place. Now, before we get into this, I want you to remember this formula that I'm giving you is not accounting for inflation, but this is a simplistic number that would at least allow you to know a ballpark of where it is, how much money you need to have when you retire in order to be able to sustain the same standard of living that you have today, right? So let's take a look at this. Now, I want you to understand with any retirement product, if you start taking that money before the age of 59 and a half, it is going to be taxed. The growth is going to be taxed, and you are going to be penalized for taking that money. So you need to understand that. So whoever you are, whenever you decide to retire, if you have a retirement product, understand that if you take this money before 59 and a half, it is going to be taxed and it is going to be penalized. Now, after the age of 59 and a half, if you take that money out, then it is just going to be taxed. And again, I'm not going to go into that because that'll make this another 5-10 minutes. But again, I'm trying to hit it and quit it because it's Friday. Now, a very simple formula we look at. You take your annual income, and let's just say in this example that your annual income is $50,000, and you consider the age that you are going to retire. And so most of us plan to live to 90 years old. So think about it this way. If you plan to retire at 65, you'll need 25 years worth of funding, right? So that's where that number comes from. So we just basically multiply your annual salary times 25 years, which means when you retire, you need to have at least $1.25 million in your retirement. I hope that makes sense. So how much money will you need when you retire? You need to have a ballpark of what that number would look like, right? And so again, if you just basically take what your annual income is, you multiply it by however many years when you plan on retiring. And again, most people plan for 90, right? So again, if you say I'm gonna retire at 60, then that means you need 30 years worth of funding. If you say I'm gonna retire at age 55 again, that means you need 35 years, right? A minimum. And again, this gives you a ballpark to shoot for. So what you're not doing is actually just paying your money into a 401k, and you don't know exactly what's really going on, right? So that's point number one. How much money do I need when I retire? So that's something that you need to know. All right. Question number two. Is my retirement plan on track to hit my retirement numbers? Now, again, I'm giving you the tools that you need in order to be able to call the person that is managing your retirement and get some clarity here. Is my retirement on track to hit my retirement numbers? That is a very, very viable question. You need to make sure. So, as we just looked at it, let's just take the example that we just saw. So, when you see that your retirement number is $1.25 million, the question that we have to ask is how far away from that $1.25 million are you? How long have you been contributing, and how far away from that $1.25 million are you? And so you can then answer the question quite candidly: are you on track? it's interesting because Forbes did an article a little while ago and a couple months ago, and they were saying how the average American only has about $108,000 in their retirement. I did a live the other week here, and I was showing you all how the numbers were a lot different. Even there, they were saying like, "Hey man," and they were literally saying, "Hey man," I want you to know that. But the number was saying, "Hey man, listen, the median income for retirement account is about $70,000." So I want you to understand, you've got to be active in maintaining and making sure that your retirement plan is going to be there for you. Can I just say it this way? If you don't fight for your future self, who else will? Please don't be like, well, I got Social Security, because again, Social Security ain't no money unless you want to live in poverty. Let's just be honest about it, right? Again, a lot of times we say, well, you can't say, I can say that. Because again, if you're used to making $50,000 a year, $40,000, $80,000 a year, do you know that you ain't gonna be making that kind of money with Social Security? I could say some stuff, but it might get me banned, and I'm trying to stay out of Facebook jail. But I just really want y'all to understand that at the end of the day, it is up to you to make sure that you know where your retirement numbers are. And you have to make sure that your retirement plan is on track to hit your numbers. Now, let me help you real quick. If you've been putting your money into this 401k and it's not getting where you want to get to, you need to look at some other options, right? Don't say, oh, well, let me just add more money to it. Because again, what you got to understand is you have to understand the anatomy of the variable market. And again, it's like this now, and I hope this makes sense to y'all when I say it. If you try to gamble your way into retirement, it's never going to work. I'm telling you, we don't know the number of people that have lost property, that have lost houses, broken up homes, because they get a gambling addiction and they think they can gamble their way out and get back on the good foot. You cannot. I call that mindset the same type of mindset that if you have a boxer who says, you know what, I want to go fight in the UFC. And I know we kind of mad at the UFC right now because of the whole Bud Light thing, but I'm not even going to go there either, right? But here you go. You got a boxer that says, hey, I want to go and fight in the UFC. And he's like, I'm going to train for the boxing part, but I'm not going to train for the ground game. I'm not going to do any jiu-jitsu. I'm not going to work on any kicks. That joker going to get beat down. Do you hear what I'm saying? Why? Because he's not training for the right fight. And so I'm saying that to say, folks, to make the example that if you're trying to prepare for retirement by continuing to throw more money into a vehicle that has not grown your money exponentially, you're like that boxer trying to fight in an MMA fight, right? So make sure that where you're putting your money, it matters, right? And again, question number one, how much money do I need when I retire? You must know that number. And remember, there's a very simple formula. Your annual income times the number of years you're going to need to get you to 90, right? You multiply your annual income times however many years you need to get to 90. And then question number two, is my retirement plan right now on track for me to hit my retirement numbers? All right. Now, point number three, and I'm done. Will I run out of money? Oh, this is heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking because we see where so many of our elderly are retiring. They have to retire, or they retire because they can't continue to do their normal job of what they were doing, which was paying them a decent salary. But then they realize, because one, a lot of people don't know this, that your 401k is going to be taxed once you start drawing it out. It's going to be taxed. And so what happens is people don't take into account for those taxes. And they're like, well, I got $300,000, I got $500,000, but they don't realize that that money is going to get taxed, because you're going to get taxed on the growth. So you didn't take that into consideration, right? And depending on how much money you have, that's going to put you in a different tax bucket potentially. And now all of a sudden, where you think you had $500,000, really you only have 300, 350, right? Whatever the case may be. So will you run out of money? And this is probably one of, and I'm just being honest here, y'all, this is probably one of the main reasons why we are writing as many fixed index annuities as we are, because clients are understanding now that a 401k or 403b is really just a pot of money, right? And they're going to give you distributions from that pot of money. But once the pot's empty, right? It's like a pot of stew. Once that pot of stew is gone, you might be scraping in there. You might take you a little piece of biscuit and get in there and sop it up. But once it's gone, baby. But when we're showing them the fixed index annuity is showing them how they will have a check for the rest of their life. And so for this one client that I'm talking about, when I showed them that, again, I don't do a whole lot of talking. I let the screen do the talking. And I put them numbers up on the screen, and that individual sat back, looked at the screen, and said, "Rob, come, you got to be kidding me." I'm like, "No, I don't believe this." Hey, brother, these the numbers. I ain't do no hocus pocus. We sat right through. We walked through that together. Come on, man. I don't know what else to tell you. You see the he said, I see the numbers. I just find it difficult to believe, but I know what you're saying is right because I see it with my own eyes. And then the next statement out of his mouth was, I wish I knew about this 10 years ago. If I knew about this 10 years ago, I would be I wouldn't even be in the situation that I'm in. And that's primarily the reason why I did this video today, because when he began to state how, man, I wish I knew about this, 10 years ago. Oh, why didn't I know about this? Oh, man, I could have been in such this, that, and the other. Again, it somewhat pricked my heart. And so that's why I do the videos that I do. I don't do them for likes and all of that. I hope that you like my videos. I hope that I'm rather, entertaining and engaging. But I just want you to be in the know. I want you to know that you don't have to worry about what's going on. Your future self can actually retire if your present self is willing to do one thing. Ask these 3 questions about your 401k. And I'm gonna say this one thing. A lot of the reason why people keep their 401k is because you use it as your personal piggy bank. And that's not a good practice. Listen, I love y'all. Y'all know this. But when you take from your 401k, you're robbing your future self. I'm gonna say that one again. When you start taking from your 401k, 403b, 457, whatever, to do whatever, you are literally robbing your future self. Why is that? Because whatever money you have, you're now messing up the compound interest on that. In addition to the fact that you're paying taxes on it and you're being penalized on it. So whatever you had, you just paid 30% tax on, which further diminished the value. It's ludicrous that we do this. But it's because of a mindset that we have. Well, I can borrow that and it's going to grow and this, that, and other, but it's not. Like I say, go find the article. Forbes said that the average American has about $108,000 in their retirement. And as I showed you here beforehand, if you have $50,000 a year, when you retire, you need $1.25 million. $1,250,000 is what you need to basically maintain the same standard of living that you have right now, not counting inflation. So listen, as I close, for real, I want you to ask these 3 questions about your 401k. And when you ask these questions about your 401k, hit me up. Hit me up on my EM, post on this chat where you see it at. I want to know what the people say when you ask them these 3 questions. Are they answering you these questions? Because watch this. These questions are very direct. How much money will I need when I retire? That's a very direct question, right? And I've showed you how to do a simple formula. I can do the one again when we sit down with our clients. That's when we do the one where we add the inflation, we account for the inflation or whatever the case may be. But that's the first question that you ask. Then, is my retirement plan on track to get where I need to be to that number? And so again, if you're making $50,000 a year, again, I'm kind of giving you the answer. You need at least $1.25 million, right? And if you say, well, if it's not on track to hit that, and let me help you. If you're in your 40s and 50s and you only got $100,000, guess what? It's not on track, baby. I don't care what nobody say. If you got 200,000, it's not on track for you to hit your number by the time you retire. And then last but not least, will I run out of money? That's what you need to ask them. And if they can't say, no, Mr. or Mrs. Klein, you will not run out of money. If they can't give you that assurance, then the question now becomes, why would you continue to fund something where you know it's going to put your future self in peril, right? And so that's what I wanted to talk about today. I hope that you all will listen to what I say. Go back and listen to it again. Please punch holes in it. I often say, hey, listen, one thing about me, I'm never going to mislead anyone. Never ever, and if I am misleading you, I can guarantee you it's not intentional, but I promise you, I do my research before I get on these calls, before I get on these things. I do my research, but I can tell you with great assurity that right now, a lot of people are set for their future self to be a bit disappointed with you. But you don't have to do that. You can make a change today, and we can make sure that your future self is taken care of. That's what we're here for. And we want to be able to help you and your family. Well, listen, it's your man, Rod Hickman, Generational Wealth Builders, where poverty ends with us. Remember, knowledge is not power until it's applied. You can have an 18-wheeler that's full of gas, ready to go. And as long as it's in neutral, it's not going anywhere. It's only until you apply the clutch that it actually begins to move forward. And I want you to move forward in reaching your financial goals and ensuring that you build generational wealth for you and your family, because when you work with us, poverty ends right here. It's your man, Rod Hickman. Y'all take care. Have a blessed weekend. Take care, and bye-bye.